Thank you for listening to English with Monty. For bonus episodes, to test your English grammar, book a free 30-minute trial lesson, or to access our conversation group in London, go to linktree/English with Monty, linktr.ee/English with Monty. Today we're talking about common English errors when a learner's first language is Spanish. Hello there, and welcome to English with Monty. We're moving on to episode number 60, and today we're going to talk about common mistakes made by Spanish speakers, so people whose first language is Spanish. And I have Diana from Colombia. Hi, Diana. How are you doing?
Hi, Jon. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
No worries. You're very welcome. It's been great that you're doing this show with us because obviously we've known each other for quite a while now, haven't we? Maybe just over a year, is that right?
Maybe, last year. Maybe June or July. You're right.
We did some group lessons, didn't we, with a couple of friends of yours? And well, you've come along to the conversation group a couple of times as well in London. I guess we've got to know each other pretty well from there.
Yeah, and then we became friends, I think, now. Oh, we are.
We're definitely friends, yes. Yeah, you don't.
Okay. I went to some conversational groups, and also you used to be a teacher for me and two friends, two girls from Brazil also.
Yeah, that's right. It seems quite a
Yeah,
long time ago now in a way, doesn't it? Because things have changed a little bit since then. They were good times. They were fun lessons, weren't they?
yeah, very good.
I mean, I don't know if you would like to maybe explain a little bit about your background, because I think the listeners might find that quite interesting as well.
Okay, thank you. As you said, I'm from Colombia. I'm from Bogota. It's the main city in Colombia. I've been living in Argentina for 13 years. This last 13 years, I was there. My bachelor degree is in law. I'm a lawyer, and I've been working with, especially with environmental laws in Colombia and in Argentina. Environmental laws related with indigenous communities or people who lives in countryside, especially affected by companies who exploited oil and gas and mining in those countries. And also I've been working with some projects with the environmental ministry in Argentina about national environmental development. And in that project, my main responsibility was working with indigenous communities in terms of guarantee their own rights, because in Latin America, we have a special protection for Black communities and indigenous communities because they are very related with their lands. That has been my job these last years. And nowadays, I'm very excited because I'm going to start a master degree here in London about risk, disaster, and resilience. So it's related with environmental problems that we are facing.
They're very interesting topics and obviously very relevant today. And I guess this is one of
Yeah.
the reasons we became friends, wasn't it? Because of having an interest and a passion in these kind of subjects. I admire what you're doing and what you have done so far, and looks like you're all on track for what you're doing now as well with the masters. So that's great news.
Thank you very much. You're very kind.
You're welcome. We've got a bit of a document, haven't we, which we both had a look at. It's a similar format to what I've done previously. So we did it with a Dutch speaker. Well, it wasn't a French speaker, but it was Gideon, but he knows about the French mistakes potentially being in Paris. And then Tessa was the Dutch speaker. So it's common mistakes made for a Spanish speaker. And it's through Cambridge. So we're kind of going to analyze this document to see if what they say is true for Spanish speakers. If you can give me a few ideas and maybe some additional things, obviously, that may have missed out that you feel as a Spanish speaker may be a bit unique to your situation.
Okay.
So, first of all, we're going to talk about things that are typically spelt incorrectly by a Spanish speaker. Looking at that list to begin with, rather than go through all of them individually, are there any ones that actually stand out to you that you consistently would get wrong or you think are confusing for Spanish speakers?
Assessing the list, I'm not sure if I agree with the accommodation and comfortable, because the document said there are two words that typically cause problems for Spanish learners. The spelling is slightly different. I don't find comfortable as a difficult word for me, but I think that's very subjective, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, for example, excellent, because we don't use double L in this word, could be true, but there are other words like, for example, that are in the list, like because or beautiful. I don't find these words very difficult because are very common also. We used to use these words easy. But words like together or though or even though, all of these words related to that though, I think for us it's difficult. I'm not sure if it's just for Spanish speakers or for everyone, but they are not in the list.
It's things with OUGH. Is that the idea? So like
Yeah, yeah.
though, thought, tough, these kind of ones. Is that right? And that's more with the spelling?
Some of them have T at the end, others don't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Sure.
difficult for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand what you mean about because. Because is a very common word, isn't it? I can't imagine many Spanish speakers putting an O instead of an A after the
No.
C. I mean, that seems a bit strange to me. But also, as well, yeah, beautiful. Again, that's a common word, isn't it? So here it's saying that some Spanish speakers miss out the U before the T. I don't know. I've never experienced that. Again, as you say, it's a common word, isn't it? That's an interesting one. Maybe with double L's, I think that is a factor. I have seen that
Yeah.
before. And obviously, that doesn't really change the pronunciation, does it? It's just missing one letter out, really. With excellent, I can imagine that happening. I think the one with accommodation, I don't know. I've never really seen that.
No.
Even native speakers get that wrong. So
Oh,
it's,
really?
yeah,
Okay.
they do. Sometimes you will see it on the side of a hotel or something like that, and they've only spelt it
Okay.
with one M. Usually, a native speaker, if they were going to make a mistake with that one, they would put the double C, but then they'll just have one M. It is quite a tricky spelling, yeah, even for native speakers. So look out for that one. Comfortable. Yeah, I don't know.
Comfortable? No. I don't have any problem with comfortable.
Hmm.
Also with belief. Belief is also in the list, and I find very easy this word. Accommodation is the most, or recommend with double M also could be a common mistake.
I can see those with
Yeah.
something I recommend. Yes, I could understand that one. It is curious because here it particularly underlines accommodation and comfortable, typically causing problems for Spanish speakers. Because also
Mm.
an N instead of an M for comfortable, not sure.
For example, I would add one that for me is difficult. It's like do environment,
Hmm.
because it's N and M, and government.
Ah, yeah.
It's N and M. Just writing here. Yeah, it's N and M.
Yeah, so that's quite a tricky one for you, like just making sure
Yeah,
that the N's there as well as the M.
yeah, for me. Yeah. I'm trying to find another in my head.
I can understand that one. They're a bit of a silent letter, aren't they? So
Exactly.
government, Government. So yeah,
Exactly.
the N
Yeah.
and M going together there. So yeah, a bit confusing. What about this idea of the H? So you've got in together. They say that sometimes Spanish speakers put the H after the
Uh,
G.
like which one? Sorry.
Together.
Together. Not for me, but could be.
Could be.
Because in the example that they give is very long word with GH and TH. They haven't seen this mistake.
I haven't
No,
noticed
never.
this. I mean, which I have experienced that a couple of times with Italians, where you don't include the first H, so it's WICH would be a wrong spelling.
Uh-huh.
Do you ever make that mistake? I guess again, it's a
Not
common
really.
word.
Not really. It's more wheat. I take off the H is because I'm going to write wheat, but no which in this way.
I've had it on occasions where people spell with WHIT,
Hmm.
but I don't think that's connected to Spanish speakers. It's probably a bit universal, I would say that one.
Yeah, could be.
So, any others you want to add for spelling, or do you think that's it more or less?
Mm, I'm thinking about, for example, Yeah, again with GTH, maybe strength.
Strength. Okay.
Strength. I'm not sure what else.
I'm trying to think of something else. Length, maybe that could be another one.
Length. Yeah, you're right. I'm always confused about the order. Length, strength, NGTH. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit confusing, isn't it? Because obviously the G doesn't do anything, does it? It's not there, even though it is there. You don't sound it at all.
No, not really.
Let's move on to the prepositions that it's talking about. If anything else comes to mind with the spelling, then we can always come back to it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, here it's saying, I have to wake up 5 hours beforehand to arrive. The mistake is in my job on time, but in English, we would say at my job on time. So would you say that's a mistake in terms of a preposition?
I agree with this. We have a lot of problems with these prepositions. In and at, I think it's very, very common. Yeah, because we in Spanish, we just say en, like in. A mi trabajo, to my job, at my, maybe it's to my job. Prepositions plus noun, it's always confusing for us.
Okay, sure. But you're okay with the reason why we say at my job in this case?
I think like an address, a place, physical place.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, because of that, we use at.
So because of a place, yeah, you'd use at. I arrive at that location. So I guess location really more than anything.
Okay. But if we said I arrive in a city, to the city.
No, you arrive in a city, that would be correct.
Okay, well, okay.
It's a bit confusing, but I guess it's because you're inside it. I mean, you could say I arrive at the train station in the city because at is the place, in that case, the train station, and then in the city, as in your location is inside it.
Yeah, okay. But I agree with it's a common mistake.
All right, you agree with that one. Nice. Okay, the next one, they like going abroad, and the mistake is in package holidays, but in English, we would say on package holidays. So what do you think about this? Is this a common one?
It's a common one until you learn, I think, I forget the name, that when someone is always together on holidays, it's always on holidays.
Yeah, so like a co-location.
Co-locations, yeah. I think that for me, I used to make this kind of error. I always use now on holidays, on always holidays. But I think that is common error, yeah.
Yeah, sure. This one, I guess, as you say, it's just about learning the co-location, isn't it? I suppose in a sense, not rationalize it and just think,
exactly.
Well, on just goes with holiday. So therefore,
yeah, exactly. Don't think about it. Just say on holidays and okay.
Yeah, and then it works
out.
Yeah,
but I used to make this mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. All right, the last one for prepositions. So the traffic is impossible. So the mistake is on peak hours, but in English we would say at peak hours.
I would say, as the mistake is highlight, the traffic is impossible on peak hours. I would say like that.
You would say on peak.
So yeah, so I'm confused.
But do you understand why it's at peak hours?
Not really in this example.
Well, I guess it's just because it's talking about a time expression. Anytime you're talking about a specific time expression, you would use at.
Like at 2 o'clock or...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good.
So that's the reason.
Okay, my mistake. Yeah.
All three of those seem to be things that Spanish speakers would normally get wrong. That's interesting.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, let's move on now then to the tenses. I thought this was a really interesting one. I don't know what you felt about this. They were saying, so the most commonly confused words are had, was, and would. Had is also overused. There are many different tenses involved, right? Let's have a look and see what the mistakes are. I remember that I have to go to the dentist at 4 p.m. The mistake is I remember, whereas in English we would say I've just remembered. So here we would use the present perfect because we are using just. So therefore, that's the reason why we use it. Do you think that's a common mistake, using the wrong tense here?
Yeah, especially for Spanish speakers.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because we use that in simple present in Spanish.
Yeah.
In Spanish, me acordé que tenía, o me acuerdo. Simple present. Or maybe we can use, I'm thinking about my experience, so sorry for everyone
It's
that
okay.
agree with
That's what
me.
you're here for. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
You're a
Uh,
typical Spanish speaker. Let's say that.
yeah, yeah. So I can say, I just remember and not complete the perfect present tense. I just remember that I have to go to the dentist. Yeah, it's incorrect.
I think I have noticed this one. Yeah, I think it's quite a common one, isn't it? Not you necessarily, but yeah, I think I have noticed it with you. Again, it's not going to be a problem for understanding. It sounds a little bit odd, I suppose. But I can understand in a way why it exists, because also saying I've just remembered is obviously more difficult than saying I remember.
Yeah, because it's difficult and maybe because it's not common for us. We don't use present perfect. Okay, we use, but no. In this example, for example, yeah, we will say like in simple present, easier. If we translate in our heads from Spanish to English, that's the mistake, I think. That's the problem.
That's often when these come about, isn't it? Yeah, just because of the translation. As long as you're okay with the reason why.
Yeah, as you said, it's because we are using just.
Mm-hmm. So the next one is I buy a new bed because the other bed was very old. So here the mistake is buy. So you should say I bought. So using the past simple. I'm not really sure about this one.
No, me neither. I think it's quite clear. Did something in the past and it's finished. The action is simple past. I would say I both and you bet. No, with a mistake.
No, exactly. I think this is a strange one. I mean, maybe on occasions I've possibly heard it, but not from you. Maybe from Spanish speakers occasionally.
I don't agree. For me, it's a simple sentence, not very complicated.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
So next one, London became my home because I have already left mine in Spain. So that's not correct to say I have. In English, we would say I had already left mine in Spain. So this is about the past perfect.
Okay.
What do you think?
If I say I have already left mine in Spain, for me sounds correct.
Okay. So this is a mistake, you think?
Yeah, I think that is common, or at least for me.
It's a bit complicated though when it comes to past perfect. I mean, do you understand why we use past perfect here?
For me, past perfect, you use this when you are talking about an action that it was in the past before another action in the past.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. London
Yeah.
became my home. So we are talking in a simple past. And I had already left. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Could be tricky.
I think it probably is a
Yeah.
little bit tricky, isn't it? I mean, I guess there's a past before a past. So yeah, the Spain idea is before the London idea, but there is a link between the two. And the fact that there's a link between the two means you have to use the past perfect with the past that's previous to the other past. Spain being the past before the London bit.
Okay. Yeah.
It is a little bit confusing. I mean, they call this a narrative tense, so we don't always use it a huge amount in spoken English. I mean, I guess we do, but it's probably something you can get away with not always using and not always getting right.
Yeah, I agree with you. You don't use so much.
No, not really.
No, not really. Because of that, it's something that we don't listen very often,
Yeah, that we don't hear very often.
hear very often. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
difficult to
sure.
copy if you don't hear it.
Definitely. I guess it's like more in literature, isn't it? More in books that you would see it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on to the next one. These are quite common, I think, for a lot of people. I wouldn't necessarily say it was for Spanish speakers. Make or do, they quite frequently get confused. So it's like using the wrong verb for a particular context. Also, use instead of wear, or go because instead of come. Because there is an example for make and do. Maybe go and come, because there's no examples for that one, and use and wear. Do you ever have difficulty with go and come or use or wear?
Yeah, especially with go and come. Until maybe a few days ago, I was thinking like I didn't have any kind of problem with go and come.
Okay.
But suddenly, when I'm just talking with native English speakers, you use come if you are going to say that you went. Yeah, you went to somewhere and you use come. Why come? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah, I do understand, but I don't know. I suppose the idea is it depends which location you're in, right? I could say to you, oh, Diana, come and visit me in Folkestone. So because I'm here in Folkestone, then obviously that's the reason why I say come. And then
Uh-huh.
you're saying, I'm going to Folkestone because you're not there. So therefore you have to move from one place to another one. So I guess it's
Yeah.
really about the position where you are. So
But
yeah,
for
I think you're
example, you are in Foxton
right.
today, Friday,
Yeah,
and you can say, I'm coming to London today.
yeah, that's correct.
But why you are coming if you are there? So you have to go, not come. No, that's my.
But it depends who's there. You're in London, so therefore I'm saying to you, I'm coming to London. If you were not there, then I would just say that I'm going somewhere. If you're not in London, I would say to you, oh, Diana, I'm going to London today.
Ah, it's because you are talking with me.
Yeah,
Okay, with someone who is in the place. Where are you going?
yeah, exactly.
Okay, I get it. For me, it was always go or come. Not depends of the other person. It doesn't depend of who we're talking to.
No, it does
With,
depend. So
sorry.
yeah, that's the reason why.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm confusing who are listening this podcast.
I don't think you are. I mean, I think it's common confusion. So yeah, it's just like saying, okay, if you're in that place, then I'm going to talk about coming to see you. And it's the same with you. So I'm in this place, I'm in Folkestone, so you're coming to see me. And if I go to Leeds, you're not there. So therefore, I'm telling you I'm going to Leeds. You're not in Leeds, so I'm going to Leeds.
Okay,
Right.
now it's clear.
Cool. And what about use and where?
No, I don't think so. I think wear, especially for clothes,
What about
use.
glasses? Do you always say wear glasses?
Yeah, wear
Okay.
glasses. It's correct or is incorrect?
That
It's
is
correct.
correct. Yes. To say
Okay.
wear
Oh my
it.
God. Okay,
Yeah.
no, wear glasses. It could be a common mistake. We just have one word for that.
Okay.
That is use. Could be confusing.
So it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, but for example, if I'm using a pen for writing, I'm going to use, no wear. For me, it's not a mistake for me. Yeah, but I
Okay.
can understand why it could be a common mistake because yeah, we just have one word, one verb. Also with make and do, it's just one word. We can have common mistakes with these words.
That is a universal one, isn't it? But the one that they talk about here. So trust me, you won't. And then the mistake is do the wrong choice, whereas in English we would say make the wrong choice. I mean, it's not always the case, is it? But do is usually an activity, and then make is normally creating something in some way. That doesn't really help in this case because you're not really creating something if you say make a choice. You make a coffee, you make dinner, things like that. I suppose you have make a mistake. You could argue maybe that's creating something, possibly.
Make friends or do no make friends. Yeah.
Yeah, you would always make friends, but that's another one that's a bit confused because it seems a bit strange to say that. But yeah, you do make friends. The next one, it is her
Mhm.
birthday. So I want to do a party. So do is not correct. In English, we would say you want to have a party.
Yeah, I agree with this one. Maybe now I do less often this mistake. I make or I do.
I
I
make,
make.
I make,
Yeah,
I make. Yeah.
I make. Sorry.
It's
I
okay.
make. Used to be difficult to do.
Hmm.
Why not to do and have? Because for us they are different verbs in
Mhm.
Spanish. Super common, I think. Confused, yeah.
I mean, I think a few different speakers might have an issue with that one. I think often German speakers might say make a party.
Could be.
Have is not maybe the most obvious example or what you think it might be, but yes, in English we say have a party.
They have a breakfast, have lunch. But
Exactly.
yeah, it's not
Mm.
do. Do my breakfast.
Never do your breakfast. You make breakfast or you have
You make
breakfast.
breakfast.
Obviously, if you're cooking, you can make it. You have it if you're eating it.
So we can mix the three of them. Do, make, and have together. We can do that in Spanish.
I can understand that. I think that would probably apply to a few other languages as well. The next one, he has to travel 5 days a week. Travel is wrong in this case, and we would say commute. Commute is talking about from home to work. So that's all it's talking about. Do you think this is a common
Mhm.
mistake?
I think it's a common, but maybe because in my case, I haven't used this word commute very often before arriving in London.
Hmm.
So I used to use travel. And then here, talking with people or listening people, you use commute. Now I understand that I know that it's commute. I don't mix them. I don't confuse these words, but could be. Yeah, because we don't use commute very often. It's not a common word for us. More
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
more common.
They've not really spoken about this, but maybe it's not specific to Spanish speakers, but a common mistake is using travel as a noun. It's like I'm going on a travel. In English, we would only really use it as a verb. So you can use travel because you say I'm traveling to Spain, for example. That would be fine. But then you go on a trip to Spain, or you go on holiday to Spain, or go on a journey, I suppose, if you're actually on transport.
Okay, could be very common mistake. Yeah.
And then the last one that they're talking about with wrong verb or not quite right is just missing out the to. I tried go out into the garden. So yeah, we wouldn't say that. We'd say I tried to go out into the garden. So we need to use the infinitive there, to go. What do you think?
I'm not sure about it. No, I haven't heard this kind of mistake. I try to go. The first verb is in the past, in simple past, conjugate.
Conjugated.
And the second has to go with to. For me, it's not difficult.
I don't think that would be too much of an issue, to be honest. No.
No? Okay. No, I try to go out into the garden. Also
Yeah.
because sounds weird.
It does sound weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you don't use to go, it's like something weird.
I mean, it's possible that I might have heard it a couple of times from Spanish speakers, but not necessarily noticed it as being a big issue. I mean, maybe wouldn't say this was about Spanish speakers, but the idea of, I don't know, either using the gerund or the infinitive, and then the meaning changing. So, for example, if you say, I stopped smoking last year, and then you say, I stopped to smoke.
Okay, yeah, that could be a problem. Yeah, but it's gerund.
I mean, I think that's quite universal that people have difficulty with that because if you say I stopped smoking, it's like you quit doing that activity. Whereas if you say I stopped to smoke, it means what was the reason why you stopped? The reason why I stopped was to take out my cigarette and smoke it. That's the difference there.
Okay.
Right. Was there anything else you wanted to add with the verbs, or shall we move on to the next one?
No, I would add, but I'm not sure if it's the same example. For me, it's super confused borrow and lend. But I'm not sure if it's because I'm a Spanish speaker or everyone confused these verbs.
I think it's quite universal again, that one. I suppose the idea is borrow from and lend to perhaps helps. I borrow a book from the library, so you're taking it from the library, and then the library lends the book to you. The library is giving something out with lend to, and then borrow from is you are taking something from the library.
Okay. I'm thinking about another, maybe. No, but it's okay. I don't remember now.
I mean, I think it's covered quite a few things there, hasn't it?
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the last ones now. So this is talking about the wrong noun for a particular context. The idea is it's commonly confused nouns are things like time, clothes, house, which I think is interesting. First example, well, this first example I think is true, but again, I wouldn't say this is necessarily just for Spanish speakers. Suddenly we saw a figure in the shades. In English, we wouldn't say in the shades, we would say in the shadows.
In the shadows. I'm not sure about it. I haven't seen this mistake because it's not a very common word. You don't use shadows or shades very often, or not me. So I'm not sure if it's a common mistake for Spanish speakers.
Again, I would say it's quite universal. I mean, I suppose sometimes
Yeah.
I've kind of hear the idea of, oh, let's stand in the shadow by the tree. In English, we wouldn't really say shadow by the tree. It's like shade, because when you're being protected from the sun, we would use shade. The tree may cast a shadow, as in you are standing in the shadow of a tree, but it gives you shade.
Oh, so it could be a mistake.
Yeah, I think it could be.
After this explanation, yeah.
It could be a mistake. Yeah, definitely. I mean, often we use shadows when there is no sun. We talk about somebody walking around in the shadows at night. When the light hits them, then they create a shadow.
Okay. I don't know what to say about it. For me, it was confusing.
I think it is
Yeah.
for a few people. So yeah, let's say that's not for Spanish speakers in particular. Okay, next one. I have just moved into another home. So we wouldn't say that. We would say moved into another house.
Okay. So I don't make this mistake
Mm-hmm.
anymore, but I used to
Ah,
because
okay.
for us it's the same word.
Mm.
So it's like why in some contexts you have to use home and why in others you have to use house.
But do you understand why?
Yeah, I understand. House is the physical place and home is
Yes.
like, I don't know, emotional could be?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess house
Uh,
is the object, isn't it? Really, you're talking
yeah,
about the object. This is the object, whereas home is talking about where you feel comfortable and where you are. You could say your home is Bogota, but also you could say your home is London if you feel comfortable there.
yeah,
It's where you feel good, isn't it? The idea of home, a sense of belonging.
yeah, that's the difference. For me, I think could be a common mistake for Spanish speakers. We used to add to before home or house.
Mm.
I'm going to home because in Spanish you use that. Voy a casa.
Again, I would say that's quite universal, but maybe Spanish speakers will usually make that mistake. With home, we don't use the preposition. I'm going home. You don't say I'm going to home. Whereas you could say I'm going to my house, which sounds a bit strange in terms of the context. So,
Okay.
but if you want to talk about the object, then yes, that's the idea.
Yeah, okay.
Last one. So this is going to be the last one of everything, I think. So we used to take the bus every day at the same hour. Hour is wrong. We would say at the same time.
I'm not sure if that's a common mistake. I always use time. Yeah, but could be because in Spanish we used to use hour, la misma hora,
Mhm.
al mismo tiempo. Could be common, but not in my case.
It is possible, isn't it, for
Yeah.
Spanish speakers? Were there any other nouns that you wanted to add to this that you think people might confuse?
Something that for me is difficult as a Spanish speaker,
Hmm.
writing is the way that we build our sentences
Hmm.
when we are writing, because we used to make long sentences. And for you in English, writing is very short, the idea is very clear. Yeah, maybe as you told me once, maybe could be a common mistake or even for people from France or Italy, not just for us.
I think so to some extent, yeah. Often in English, we shorten the sentences in comparison. It's true of Latin-based languages, whether it's true for other languages, possibly. I guess with that idea, it's just trying to break it down to, I would say, a maximum of 2 or 3 clauses. If you're doing more than 3 clauses, then you should really be starting a new sentence or using a semicolon, maybe if you need to in certain circumstances. I would say that's the idea, that's the rule in order to make sure your sentences aren't too long.
Yeah, for me, prepositions are the most difficult, I think, sometimes,
Hmm.
writing and speaking. Also, phrasal verbs
Hmm.
and gerunds,
Hmm.
but I think it's for everyone, not just for Spanish speakers.
Hmm.
Maybe some pronunciation also, some sounds that we don't have in Spanish, or linking words,
Co-locations.
collocations, or
Hmm.
yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah, with pronunciation, it's interesting that they don't talk about pronunciation here. Yeah.
No.
Obviously, I appreciate Spanish is more or less a phonetic language, isn't it? Completely, as in you pronounce virtually everything the way it looks. Whereas English, yes, is not the case. So I think sometimes that causes quite a bit of confusion, doesn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm thinking about the way that children learn English here in the UK, because
Hmm.
you first learn about the phonetic, about the letters.
Hmm.
So it's very interesting, and we never study like this
Mm.
English. So
Mm.
sometimes because of that, maybe pronunciation or also spelling is difficult.
I think so, yeah. Because, yeah, you're right. We do focus on phonetics a lot. As an English speaker, you don't really think about that until you compare it with people who are non-native speakers. And yeah, you do it at such a young age that you just don't really think about it. Cool. I'm sure there are plenty of other things out there. If you have any, just write to me, info@montyenglish.co.uk. And if anybody has any questions for Diana as well, you can perhaps pass them on to her. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yes, you too. And you've been listening to English with Monty. Thanks for listening to English with Monty. For bonus episodes, sessions with the teacher, and discounts through our website, please sign up at patreon.com/English with Monty. Or you can join us for our English conversation group in London at meetup.com/Monty-English-conversation.